Picture this. You've been grinding for 3 years, brown bagging your lunch, saying no to trips, driving the same car that your coworkers quietly make fun of. And then one Tuesday morning, you open your banking app, and for the first time in your life, you see a comma in your savings balance $20,000. And for about 48 hours, it feels incredible. And then something weird happens. Your brain starts whispering. It starts telling you that you've earned something, that you've been sacrificing long enough, that maybe now is the time to finally upgrade your apartment, take that vacation, get a car that doesn't embarrass you in the parking lot at work. And here's the terrifying part. Most people listen to that whisper. I know someone who saved $22,000 over 2.5 years. Strict budget, no eating out, no subscriptions, the whole thing. And within 8 months of hitting that number, they were back down to $1,400. Not because anything catastrophic happened, not because of a medical emergency or a job loss, just life, just that whisper. And the worst part, they couldn't even tell me where the money went. It just evaporated. So today we're talking about what actually happens when you hit $20,000 saved, and the specific decisions that determine whether that $20,000 quietly turns into $350,000 over the next 30 years, or disappears so fast you start wondering if it was ever real. My name is Miko, and I spend way too much time thinking about the psychology of saving money and why people who work incredibly hard still end up broke. If you're someone who has been doing everything right, saving, cutting back, being responsible, but you have no idea what to actually do with that money once you have it, make sure you hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it helps you out. Because nobody teaches you this part. School doesn't cover it, your parents probably didn't know it, and the financial industry actively benefits from you being confused about it. So let's fix that. The dangerous moment nobody warns you about. Here's the thing most financial content gets completely wrong. Everyone talks about how to save money, cut the lattes, automate your savings, track your spending. And look, that advice isn't wrong, but nobody talks about what happens after you save it. Nobody prepares you for the psychological minefield that is actually having money for the first time. Because the moment you hit a real savings milestone, and $20,000 is absolutely a real milestone, your entire relationship with money shifts. And if you're not ready for that shift, it will undo everything you worked for. Here's what most people don't realize. The brain doesn't experience saving money as gaining something. It experiences it as delayed spending. Your subconscious has been keeping score this whole time. Every time you said no to something, every sacrifice, every skipped dinner out, your brain logged all of it as debt, money you're owed. And the moment you hit that milestone, it starts trying to collect. This is why lottery winners go broke. This is why professional athletes making millions end up filing for bankruptcy. This is why your coworker got a raise and somehow has less money now than before. It's not stupidity, it's psychology. And it will absolutely happen to you if you don't have a plan before the money shows up. So, let's talk about the plan. The first question you have to answer honestly. Before you do anything with this $20,000, you need to answer one question completely honestly. Do you have high-interest debt? I'm talking credit cards, personal loans, anything charging you more than 6 or 7% interest. Because if the answer is yes, here's what's actually happening right now, whether you realize it or not. Let's say you've got $8,000 sitting on a credit card at 22% interest, and you've also got $20,000 in savings. You feel good, right? You've got money. Except here's the math nobody shows you. That $8,000 in credit card debt is costing you $1,760 every single year in interest alone, just sitting there, just existing. Meanwhile, your savings account, if you're lucky, is paying you maybe 4%. On $20,000, that's $800 a year. So you are paying $1,760 to borrow money while earning $800 on your savings. You are losing $960 every year on net, and you feel wealthy because you have a savings account. That is the trap. That is exactly what the banks want you to think. Now, you might be thinking, but Miko, what about building wealth? What about investing? Shouldn't I be putting money in the market instead of paying off debt? Here's where it gets really interesting. The stock market returns about 10% per year on average. That's the historical average over a century. But that's a potential return. It's not guaranteed. Some years you get 25%. Some years you lose 30%. It's a range. Your credit card interest is a guaranteed 22%. Every single day you carry that balance, you are paying a certain, locked-in, no exceptions, 22% on it. You cannot outinvest a guaranteed 22% loss. It is mathematically impossible. Paying off that debt is the single highest guaranteed return available to any human being on planet Earth right now. So the rule is simple. Anything above 6 to 7% interest gets demolished before you invest a single dollar. Credit cards at 22%, gone. Personal loans at 15%, obliterated. The math isn't even close. The step that feels boring but saves your financial life. Okay, let's say you've handled the debt situation. Now you might be thinking the next step is obvious. Invest everything. Get that money working. Let compound interest do its thing. And you're not wrong that investing is the goal, but there's one step in between that most people skip, and skipping it is what causes people to cash out their investments at the worst possible time. The emergency fund. I know, boring. Stay with me. Here's what actually happens when you don't have an emergency fund. Things break, because things always break. Your car needs $1,400 in repairs. Your laptop dies. You have a medical bill. These aren't surprises. They're guarantees. They will happen. The only variable is when. And when they happen, if you don't have cash set aside, you have three options. You sell investments, potentially at a loss and definitely with tax consequences. You put it on a credit card and restart the debt cycle you just escaped, or you just don't handle it and let the problem get worse. All three options are terrible, and here's the part that really gets me. All three of them happen not because people are bad with money, but because they were too eager to invest and left themselves no buffer. The emergency fund isn't dead money. It's the thing that keeps you from making panicked, desperate financial decisions during the worst moments of your life. And those panicked decisions are almost always the ones that set people back years. So how much do you need? If you're single, renting with a stable income and no dependents, 3 months of essential expenses. We're talking rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, the basics. For most people, that's somewhere between $6,000 and $12,000. If you have a mortgage, kids, or variable income, 6 months minimum. And where does this money live? Not in a regular checking account earning 0.01%, not in the stock market. A high-yield savings account. Right now, there are accounts paying between 4% and 4.6% annually. That's FDIC insured, meaning the government guarantees it up to $250,000. It's not exciting, but it's safe, it's accessible, and it's actually earning something while it sits there. Think of the emergency fund like the foundation of a house. Nobody brags about their foundation. Nobody posts pictures of it on Instagram. But without it, everything else eventually collapses. This is where actual wealth building starts. All right, debt handled, emergency fund in place, now we're talking. Let's say after all of that, you've got somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000 left. This is where the real game begins. Priority number one is a Roth IRA. And look, I know some of you just glazed over because you've heard about Roth IRAs and you think it's one of those things that financial people talk about that doesn't really apply to regular people. So let me show you exactly why this is the single most powerful financial tool available to someone under 50. The contribution limit for 2026 is around $7,000 to $7,500. Check the IRS website for the exact number. If you're under 50 and your income is below the limit, which for single filers is around $150,000, you can contribute the full amount. Here's what most people don't realize about a Roth IRA. The money you put in has already been taxed, which means everything it earns, every dollar of growth, every dividend, every gain, is completely tax-free. Not tax-deferred, tax-free, forever. Let me show you what that actually means in real dollars. You're 25 years old. You put $7,500 into a Roth IRA today and invest it in an S&P 500 index fund. You never add another dollar. You just leave it alone. By the time you're 65, assuming 10% annual returns, that $7,500 becomes roughly $339,000, and you pay zero taxes on $331,500 in gains. If that same money sat in a regular taxable brokerage account, you'd owe somewhere between $50,000 and $65,000 in capital gains taxes when you withdrew it. The Roth IRA just handed you $50,000 for free, just for using the right account. This is where it gets really interesting. Most people think of taxes as something that happens to their paycheck. They don't think about investment taxes. But over a 30 or 40-year investing career, the difference between tax-free growth and taxable growth is often bigger than the actual amount you invested. The tax savings alone can be life-changing. Okay, so you've opened the Roth IRA, you're staring at the account, and now your brain is doing the thing where it starts researching stocks and asking Reddit which company is about to explode. Stop. Close Reddit. I'm serious. Here's what you're actually going to do inside that Roth IRA. You're going to buy a total market index fund, VTI if you're at Vanguard, FSKAS if you're at Fidelity, SWTSX at Schwab. These all do essentially the same thing. They buy tiny pieces of hundreds or thousands of companies across the entire US economy. And then you're going to do the hardest thing in personal finance. Nothing. You're going to let it sit there. You're going to ignore it when the market drops 20% and everyone on the news is saying the economy is collapsing. You're going to ignore it when it's up 30% and you're tempted to cash out and lock in gains. You're going to do nothing and let time do the work. Here's why this strategy wins even though it sounds too simple. The S&P 500 has returned about 10% per year on average for the last century. Over any 20-year period in history, it has never produced a negative real return. Never. Not through the Great Depression, not through World War II, not through the 2008 financial crisis, not through a global pandemic. And here's the thing about picking individual stocks. You're not going to find the next Apple by researching quarterly reports at midnight. You know who finds the next Apple? People with inside information. Everyone else is just gambling with extra steps and calling it investing. The index fund puts you in every company. When one fails, you barely notice. When one explodes, you automatically own it. You're not betting on a horse, you're betting on the entire race, and the race has never not finished. The math that should keep you up at night. Now, you might be thinking, this sounds great, but I'm just getting started. I only have $20,000. Is this really going to matter? Let me show you exactly how much it matters. You invest $20,000 in an S&P 500 index fund at age 25 and never add another dollar. In 10 years, at 10% annual returns, $51,875. In 20 years, $134,550. In 30 years, $348,988. You turned $20,000 into $350,000 by doing absolutely nothing except not touching it. But here's where it gets genuinely shocking. If you invest that same $20,000 and add just $500 a month on top of it, which is very achievable for most people, after 30 years at 10%, you'll have over $1.1 million. You contribute about $200,000 total over those 30 years. Your money earns more than $900,000 in gains. Your money earned more than 4 times what you put in. And at the 4% safe withdrawal rate, which is the standard rule of thumb for not outliving your money, that $1.1 million produces $44,000 per year, forever, without touching the principal. Now, let me show you the cost of waiting, because this is the part that genuinely frustrates me. You invest $20,000 today, 30 years at 10%. You end up with $348,988. You wait just 5 years and invest the same $20,000, 25 years at 10%. You end up with $216,694. That 5-year delay cost you $132,294. That is not a rounding error. That is a real number. That is the difference between retiring at 55 and working until 62. That is years of your life. And the reason most people don't feel that cost is because it happens silently, in the future, in an account they're not watching. Procrastination doesn't feel expensive in the moment. It only feels expensive when you're 60 and doing the math on what you could have had, the enemies of your $20,000. Here's what most people don't realize. Building wealth isn't complicated. The strategy is simple. The hard part is avoiding the things that destroy the strategy. So let's talk about the enemies. Enemy number 1, lifestyle inflation. This is the quiet killer. You hit $20,000 and suddenly you start feeling like you've graduated. You've been driving the beat-up Corolla for 5 years and you're tired of it. Your friends are in nicer apartments. You've been depriving yourself and you've earned something better. And look, maybe you have. But here's the math on that reasonable car upgrade. A $380 monthly car payment doesn't sound like retirement money, but $380 per month invested for 30 years at 10% is $863,000. You are trading a slightly newer car for almost $1 million in retirement wealth. And the punchline is, in 3 years, you'll be just as used to the 2024 model as you were to the 2018 one. And you'll start looking at the 2027 model. It never ends. The hedonic treadmill is real. You adapt to every upgrade almost instantly, and then you want the next one. The only way to win is to not get on the treadmill in the first place. Enemy number 2, trying to be clever. The market hits an all-time high and people start thinking it has to come down. So they wait. They'll invest when there's a dip. They'll buy when it feels safer. Here's what most people don't realize. The market spends most of its time at or near all-time highs because it trends upward. That's the whole point. If you only invest when the market feels comfortable, you'll be on the sidelines most of your life. There's a famous study about the worst market timer, someone who invested $2,000 per year from 1970 to 2013, but only invested at the absolute peak right before every major crash. The worst possible timing every single time. And they still ended up with over $1.1 million because they stayed invested, because time beat timing every single time. Meanwhile, the person waiting for the perfect moment, they waited forever and ended up with nothing. Enemy number 3, the shiny object. And this one is everywhere right now. Your friend made money on some crypto coin. Someone on YouTube turned $5,000 into $40,000 trading options. Your coworker's brother got in early on something and now he's driving a Porsche. Here's the thing about those stories. You only hear the wins. You never hear about the 9 other people who tried the same thing and lost everything. Survivorship bias means you're constantly making risk assessments based on incomplete information. 90% of day traders lose money. Think about how remarkable that is. The stock market goes up over time. Doing nothing makes you money. You have to actively try to lose in a rising market, and yet 90% of active traders find a way. Don't be in that 90%. The framework that actually works. Okay, let's bring it all together because I want you to leave this video with something concrete. Here is exactly what you do with $20,000. First, eliminate any debt above 7% interest. That's a guaranteed return that beats everything else available to you. Credit cards, personal loans, gone. This is non-negotiable. Second, build your emergency fund. 3 to 6 months of essential expenses in a high-yield savings account paying 4% or better. This is your financial immune system. It keeps you from making desperate decisions when life inevitably gets complicated. Third, open and max a Roth IRA, around $7,000 to $7,500 for 2026. Buy a total market index fund, VTI, FSKAS, whatever your brokerage offers. Set it and genuinely forget it. Fourth, and anything remaining goes into a taxable brokerage account at Fidelity, Schwab, or Vanguard. Same index funds, same boring strategy. Fifth, and this is the one most people skip, set up automatic monthly contributions, even $200 a month, even $100. The automation removes the decision from your hands and removes the temptation to spend it instead. You never see it, so you never miss it. That's it. It's not complicated. It doesn't require you to watch the market every day or understand options trading or follow crypto Twitter. It requires you to make a few good decisions once and then get out of your own way. Here's the honest truth about building wealth. It is deeply, almost offensively boring. The people who retire early and financially comfortable aren't the ones who found the secret stock or timed the market perfectly. They're the ones who bought boring index funds every month for 30 years, while everyone else chased returns and switched strategies every time something felt scary or exciting. They drove the paid-off car while their coworkers financed BMWs. They kept the smaller apartment while their friends upgraded. They kept buying when the market dropped 30% and everyone said it was over. Not because they knew something nobody else knew, but because they understood one thing deeply. That time is the actual asset. Not the stock picks, not the hot sector, not the timing, time. Your $20,000 is not just money, it's a test. Can you be boring when everyone around you is being exciting? Can you hold steady when the market drops and your brain is screaming to do something? Can you watch a coworker drive a new car and not feel like you're losing? Because that's what this actually takes. Not genius, not a finance degree, just the ability to follow a simple plan without letting your own psychology sabotage it. The math works. It has always worked. The only thing that stops it from working is you. So open the Roth IRA today. Not this weekend, not when you feel more ready. Today. Buy the index fund, set up the automatic contribution, and then close the app and go live your life. Compound interest has been quietly making boring, patient people wealthy for 100 years. You just have to let it work. If this video helped you, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling me where you're starting from, whether that's $0 or $20,000 or somewhere in between. I read every single one. See you in the next one.